I remember in 2022 when he said, I want to burn down the country.
Yeah.
I just said to myself, um, you know, that's defamation, character assassination. I mean, that is a threat against me. Ordinarily, I would take ordinary person to court, but I simply cannot because, as Mr. Dabo just said, the protection that the immunity he has in the Constitution, and I'm hoping and praying one day we will remove all these immunities, because personally I don't think there should be such immunities for any public official, including the president, in a republic. Yeah, so to say, working from the perspective of human rights, from freedom of expression, in terms of the political space, I wouldn't say it's a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's a threat. It's a threat, and a threat that demonstrates a lack of regard for the Constitution, for one's oath of office, but also a disregard of democratic values, so that we know, for journalists, for activists, and people who work to ensure there is transparency and accountability in society, people in power are notorious of issuing those kind of threats. So, and threats come from different ways. It can be labeling. They just label you an arsonist, as an anti-this or that, as someone who wants to destroy our culture or our society. So that is mischaracterization, to demonize you in order to alienate you. So people in power have used that, against others that, they who oppose them, the other individuals or groups. But also we've seen people in power arbitrarily say arrest, so that there is no legal basis, really. There's no justification for such action, but arbitrarily they arrest journalists, they arrest human rights defenders and others, political opponents and so on, or any individual. So it's a threat that happens, and those threats can move on to higher levels, to enforce disappearances, to summary executions. We see Ajame did all of those things here. So for me, this is the context I'm looking at it. And this is the very reason why we have never again as an agenda, since 2017, that such actions by people in power was what we had, such arbitrary actions, abusing their powers, misusing public resources just to threaten, to intimidate, people who disagree with you, criticize you, categorize them in a way to alienate them, to isolate them, to demonize them in the eyes of the public, and so on. So this is nothing new, not in the Gambia at all, I mean, across the world. So that even if you look at things like, say, even genocide, I mean, when you look at it, the very beginning of it, before the actual, say, genocide or killing happened, you will see demonization, dehumanization, so that, the Nazis have called Jews names, in those days, crocodiles, cockroaches and things like that. In Rwanda, they have called the Tutsis the long trees, vermins and stuff like that. Why? Because you want to give a certain, picture, a certain kind of color to this person or these people, so that you justify whatever action you're going to do. So these threats, therefore, can take this form as well, to subject them to threaten them with a court action, when in fact there's no basis for it. But simply because you are in power, you are powerful, so that you come apologize, retract. If you don't, I will take you to court. And so what can a small newspaper newspapers in this country are basically struggling, especially a newspaper like The Voice. What resources do they have to want to go to court to fight that kind of a matter? In the end, you may force them to retract, to apologize, and then to refrain from any reporting of the president, of the government, and which would be, as I said, a fundamental violation, because the Constitution has given a constitutional duty to the media to hold the government accountable on behalf of the people. So threats like this, therefore, you are making the media, not just The Voice, but all other media houses now may be watching. If
self-censorship.
Yeah, self-censorship comes, and then therefore they are limited in the way that they will critique, they will shed light on the president, the words and actions and decisions, or the lack of them, of the president. So, so this is a serious threat. And as I said, given the never again mantra where we came from, I'm disappointed that the president and all his advisors, I'm sure he has legal advisors, like, people like, Mr. Dabo here, should have advised him exactly like he said, but even without that, to realize on his own that this country, we should pass that stage. Yes, we should pass the stage for people in power to use their positions or their power, their influence to therefore determine how they are perceived or reported on, especially by the media in this country. And as we said, especially what makes it even more ridiculous is the reporting is fair and balanced. So clearly, what is the point? But I would say it is a threat, and a very serious threat that goes beyond The Voice newspaper, but it's a threat to the entire media community of the Gambia. Because what it does, like you said, the self-censorship, the fact that this thing is there, one is tempted to check your steps. Even if you think it is, legitimate public interest to report.
Yeah. And I think it brings to mind, because we went through this, Kelfatu, and sometimes you yourself, you look at things and you're like, I need to be a little extra cautious. For example, and when I was talking to Sheriff about this, the first thing that comes to your mind is your business. Because when the president is suing you, when the president says something to you about you, I remember exactly when Mustafa wrote a story about OJ, the former Minister of Agriculture, and we published it. I was working with a certain bank on a certain thing. It was like a done deal. The morning that we were supposed to get that facility was the same day the story came out. I got a call from my account manager and he says, we're not doing this. And they started asking for certain other things. This is the mindset of our people. Hey, even sponsors, because as a business, you cannot function without sponsors and all these big partners. So sometimes it's not just about taking you to jail. It's about making people scared of you. It's about strangling you financially. Because some people will just look at you, and no, I don't want to work with them because they are not in good terms with government. We are working with government. Some people, sponsors will tell you this, you have to tone down because like people tell us this. So this is sometimes, I look at it as, this is the tactics sometimes. It's not just about taking you to jail, it's about strangling you. At some point, telling people, we don't flex with this person, don't deal with them indirectly. It's like sending those messages. And that is the most dangerous thing that we have seen is happening now in this country.
Yeah. And historically, when you go back, I'm sure Mr. Dabo would remember Sanamane, Tix Mane, who was in those times also the investigative journalist, of front down there, Tix, and ran stories about corruption in the government, accused ministers. But that is the job of the media house. So if government, you feel, you can respond to it. But what they did at the time was to send him, to sue him. They took the matter to court, about 3 ministers. And it went to court for a while, about a year. It was going, things were going. And what it does is it consumes your resources, as is small, middle house here are not rich, so, so to speak. So that at the end of the day, was in 1988, I think, at the end of the day, even though the court did not find him, I don't know how the legal terms you use, liable or culpable or so, was freed, but the cost of it and all of the things around there were so much that his newspaper, the Torch, I think it was the Torch, ended up dying. It ended up dying. So that is the impact. That's the implication when you have these kind of things, and we can have this kind of trend, which is really getting too many now. As we speak right now, a minister had threatened Al-Kamba Times, journalists for the same thing. Of course, you mentioned your case, and even myself sitting here, a former lands minister has threatened to take me to court. And if you handle public office, you manage public resources, we should look at you. We should check you. Yes. And citizens have a right to have an opinion as to how their public institutions and public officers are performing or not performing. And as you would be very happy if they say you are performing very well, also receive it well when we say you are not performing. Yes, if we say you are a very honest public servant, as you are happy with that also, when we say you are a very corrupt public servant, also receive that. Yes, and prove to us how you are not corrupt. Otherwise, get out of public office. Yes, you are not doing anyone a favor. And, I say this all the time, public officials, lives are in your hands. What public officials do, the decisions they take, the way they manage our public resources and institutions, they either make, save a life or take a life. Literally, that is what it is. They create opportunities that would, uplift a life, build a future of someone or deny someone completely. Why do you think all these Gambians are dying in the high seas? Well, really, we're dying in the backyard, yes, because, and those opportunities, where should they come from? All right, the government, the state, because people are paying tax to you. Yes, people are paying tax to you in the people's name. Those people who have died in the Sahara Desert, in the Mediterranean, in their name. This loan that the finance minister said, our debt is 110 billion. It's part of their name also are there. Yes, so those loans, those grants that they receive in our name is for all citizens to create the enabling environment. We have the right opportunities. So literally, the lack of those opportunities, which is caused by the government, you are making people die. People go to Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. Preventable, diseases that should not kill them, kills them. Yes, even today I see GoFundMe, Gambians going to seeking help for some procedure that they cannot do here. They have to go to India or to Turkey or to somewhere else out of this country. But the taxes people pay, the resources, the loans and grants we receive, government should put it in Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, in Faroto Health Center, in Mansakongo Health Center, in Saraboja Health Center, and so on. Now you don't do that, all right? But you have the audacity to go and buy a $12 million vehicle, all right? Just to travel from Brusubi to Banjul to go to work. Just like that. And the whole year, what you produce is not up to 12 million. So what you are consuming is more than what you are producing. So when all of that is put together, Fatu, who are you in public office to say that citizens or journalists should not criticize you, should not, have opinion about you? Let that opinion be right or wrong. But simply because you sit in public office, you handle their public affairs, there you handle public resources. And in the way and manner you handle that, you can make somebody survive or somebody die. You can make somebody get education or no education. You can make somebody get good health care or die in sickness. So I am really concerned about this matter. And, what I expected from this president, from this government, is to learn from the past and take steps that will strengthen democracy in this country, that will strengthen good governance in this country, which means, to see how do they judiciously manage the public resources of this country to create the necessary opportunities, you know, and services, facilities to enable people to obtain the highest standard of living. No, that is not the case. And now, if you can threaten journalists with court action, and in fact, we are talking about court action, and overzealous IGP went ahead to even arrest them. I mean, on what basis? And now you put some charge on what basis?